Gambia Doku Wato Sita, welcome to Dialogue with the Youth So on Gunjur Online. I am your host, Ebrima Scattred, Janneh, and today we have a guest who is well known on the social media platform, an author, the author of the book You Stopped Stealing a Country, a young man who used ingenuity in the service of his country and persistently, educating and sharing his knowledge, his ideas with people. And I wish, and I hope and I pray and I urge every Gambian, especially youths, to get that book, especially the ones in the diaspora, and you can get it in Amazon if you want, and other places. And, if you're not reading it, send it to somebody who can read it, because that book is worth reading. Welcome to Gunjur Online and Dialogue with the Youth. So, Mr. Mas, welcome.
Thank you very much, Ebrima. Good to be back, and hello to all the viewers. I greet everybody wherever you are. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night. Happy to be back, and thank you for having me.
This is your platform, Mr. Mas. Definitely, we miss you. We started, serializing the book, and think we will continue that, because I think people need to know the content of that book and really read it, so that we can not only know our history, our past, because we cannot be anything without our history, but to also develop the reading culture, to give yourself confidence and believe that you can make it in the Gambia, even though things are very, very difficult. But I prefer that than the perilous journey through the back way. Kids are stranded all over the place. Our prayers are with them. Mr. Mas, we are going to start to discuss about the Gambia government, the borrowing from 2017 to 2021, nearly about 28.5 billion. Every country do borrowed, and we know that countries borrowed and all those things, but the speed of our borrowing and I don't know whether it's me or anybody else. We are not seeing any impact where that money between 2017 and 2021 is about nearly 4 years. 28.5 billion Gambian dollars is domestic borrowing is about nearly 10.3 billion. External borrowing is 18.2 billion. Mr. Mars, everything in the Gambia is not working because I challenge people to what is working there currently. We will know why. You can help us with your opinion. The economy is not doing well. Living cost is very, very, very expensive. There's no job, for anybody, especially the youths. And hospitals are falling. Everything is at a standstill or regressing for some reason. Why do you think the Gambia government keep borrowing like this, and what are they doing with this money? And Mr. Mas, give us some your thought about this unprecedented borrowing, and we are not seeing the impact. Where is the money?
So, in a nutshell, basically, the money that they borrow, like you said, every country borrows. Even the United States has owes China some debt. That's just part of international dealings and how states are operated. You don't always have what you need to manage your country, so you end up borrowing. The difference comes where what people do with the money that they borrowed. So, in the case of the Gambia government, I think instead of investing that money in the productive sector of the economy, where it will yield some dividend back to the country, what they're busy doing is buying political capital. So, in a sense, it's personal use. What they would say is, we build this road, we build this school, we build this, we build that. Those only consume the capital you put in them, and they don't yield anything back. When we can get into the condition of the roads. You build it 2 years later, it is going to require maintenance, which it doesn't get, and then it continuously wears down. By the end of 5, 6 years, it looks like there was never a road in this environment here. So it is a case of them not investing the money in the productive sector. Like we all had the president way back when he talked about the fertilizer that they bought for the farmers. All of it ended up in Senegal. So what we have is a kind of a cabal in that country where a few people will get a government job and start getting rich overnight. Why? Because they know all the maneuverings that they do. But the fact of the matter is, we are increasingly going into debt in that country, and we're not investing the money in any sector that is going to yield any income for us to be able to meet our requirements from all those international institutions. So, for example, you borrow that many billions from abroad. If you invested in the hospitals by, buying beds and equipment and medicine, people go to hospital and they pay for their treatment. So it might take a long time because of the income level of the people. You cannot charge them too much for them to get their treatment, but eventually that money will be able to, at least, at the very least, maintain the hospital. If an equipment breaks down, you can fix it. But you borrow all that money, we are not seeing any improvement in agriculture. We are not seeing any improvement in the health sector. We don't even need to get into the education sector, because what happens to all the young children, I mean the young people, when they graduate from school, there's no opportunity for them. They either join the services, which is limited in how many people it can take, or, like you said, they jump into the back way. Basically, that's not their goal, but it's a suicidal mission. You don't perish in the Sahara, you're going to perish in the sea. If you don't, you end up in Italy or Spain, and they keep you in a refugee camp for years and years with your life wasting away. You can benefit yourself or other people. So, in a nutshell, that's what it is. We are seeing public servants getting fat on their public service pay, which basically is nothing. So they have to have some other source of income, and then the people are left holding the bucket. We are going to have to pay that amount because it's borrowed, and it's borrowed in the name of the Gambia. So when we talk about issues like that, that's what the young people need to see. You can borrow that much money, there's no problem in it, but build a skill center. Like growing up, we had IBAS in the what is it called, Indigenous Business Advisory Services. That was there primarily to help people get on their feet, and then they repay that loan back, and it is available for other people. In the process, they can make profit that goes back into the national coffers. So it's just borrowing and not investing it in the right place, just trying to get political capital. Because at the end of the day, when elections come, they will say, oh, Barrow built this road here. Barrow constructed that bridge there. Barrow built that school there. Oh, this many toilets in this place there. That's it. Basically, for a people that cannot even afford. How many people have cars in the Gambia? I'm not saying we don't need roads, but we need to prioritize our development like every other country. We are not self-sufficient in food production. That means we import a lot. So why can't we have something similar or akin to the National Trading Corporation (NTC), where you can buy food in bulk and then sell it at a subsidized price for the people? As a country, when you buy it, obviously with the economies of scale, you're going to get it at a cheaper price and you can sell it to the people, make a little bit of profit. For example, if private individuals are making $50 a profit per bag, you can bring it down and make $35 a profit. That is going to be some money that you can use at least to service your debt, or invest it in another sector of the economy. But all in all, at the end of the day, is selfish consumption. They're using it to build um, or fund programs that eventually they can point to and say, we did this, and because of that you should vote for us. So they just buy in their votes, while saddling the Gambian people with debt.
Settling the Gambian people with death. And Mr. Mas, I think we can link this to the different failures that we are talking about. Because if we Gambia export or import nearly over 86% of the rice that we consume. If we have rice farms that are developed and all those things, we can develop young people's skill and put them into those productive sectors, where we'll have food sufficiency, employment will be created, skill centers, and many things. And because all these things are not there, and we can see how hopeless kids are, the young people, you disagree or agree with them, but definitely the country is more very, very, very hopeless for them. Somebody need to give them that motivation that things can work here. But if this money, nearly 4 years, or we have about 28.5 billion, and we cannot saw where these things go, and yet we have the our president, going to countryside and talk about anything else other than the policies, how to mitigate some of the challenges the country is going. Do you know what Mr. Barrow's policies are? And do you know if there's any, whether he has any plan to tackle some of the issues that are happening in the country? Because he's not talking about them. Anytime he talk about these things, it's very personal, individuals, and the politics of Garewale, and divide and rule, and ridiculing people, who are heroes, people who we should celebrate each other. As he said, the politics of party politics is finished, and now the government need to sit tight and work. What do you think is the policy trajectory, if there's any, of President Barrow that can give a little bit of hope? We can say these and these are these and these are the policies that this country can, at least the youths and the country can have a little bit of hope that maybe things will be fine in a near time.
Even Barrow doesn't know that.
Mm.
Even he doesn't know what. Sorry, I'm just reading through here. Yeah, even Barrow doesn't know what his policies are. Like you said, all he cares about, everything that you say against the government, he takes it personally. Everything that you say against any action he takes it personally. He thinks this is a personal um, property that he can do with as he pleases. The guy doesn't have any sense of direction when it comes to managing the affairs of the country. That is why the only thing he cares about when he goes and gathers people, um, the easiest way to do that is call journalists, hold regular press briefings or press conferences. He doesn't even have to be there. Ami Bojan can be. He has so many spokespersons. Ami Bojan is there.
Mm.
Ibrahim Silla is there. Sankare is there. Why can't you just have regular interactions with the citizens through the journalists? Let them ask you the questions that are on citizens' minds, so that you can at least tell people, this is what my plan is, or this is what the president is doing about this. But he has no sense of direction. He has no idea what he is doing, or what that office is all about. And at the beginning, he had people around him who can help direct him, but because of selfish interests and people who want nothing out of government other than what they can put in their pockets, he parted with all those good people. One example that always comes to mind we talk about is, for example, Manja. You know, that guy was a social security that was completely in the dumps. He reversed it and brought it around 100, like 360 degrees. They started making profit because he saw all the loopholes that were in that system, wasting, people's money, people who worked as laborers and doing menial jobs in hospitals, cleaners and stuff. They had a little bit of pension, and what do as Social Security? Gather it and give it to themselves to go on Hajj, to go, buy land and build those lands. He reversed all that trend. And what did people do? Make noise. So a strong leader, what you should have done is say, hey, this money is for the people, it's benefiting them. And now we're at a place where Social Security is back to being a profitable enterprise, and we need to keep that trajectory. But I cite him because he's not a partisan person that anybody can say, oh, because of this, he's there undermining the government. No, he's delivering results. So if this guy wants results for the Gambian people, those are the types of people he need around him. But he kicked him out. Now look where Social Security is. Everything is reversing in that country. Barrow has no idea what he is doing. All he can do, like you said, is Garuwale. And like Mr. Dabo said at his interview with Kerfadu recently, whatever he talks about has to do with government or government policy. And Barrow being the head of the government, obviously, he's going to be directly mentioned, or at least to a certain extent, he's going to have to share the blame for whatever failure is being talked about. So if he cannot stomach that and thinks that these people are after me, then he just needs to vacate that seat, which he doesn't want to do, because to him, it's all about the power I have, the money I can gather, the riches I can get, and that's it. I never see that guy sit down and talk about any policies, just empty promises, um, big words, empty rhetoric and gestures, and he cannot squire anything in that country, which is the sad reality. And I think Gambian people, this is the youth, so the Gambian youth need to know that. It doesn't matter how much you run away. We are all here. We could decide that, okay, I have my family here. I have a job. It's not making me rich, but at least I don't go begging people to give me money. I can take care of my family. And then, you forget about Gambia. Some people were able to do it, but the fact is you cannot, because you still have relatives there. That is home. It doesn't matter how far away you go, it's always going to be home. Your heart is always going to be there. So what do? We have people in that country who can move the country forward. Like I said, people like Manjang. When people are delivering, you see it. It
Mhm.
affects every sector of the economy. So if you have people in government positions, and then all you can deliver is just big words and empty promises that nobody sees the impact of, it's just shameful. And he keeps talking about, politics is over, or partisan politics is over. Let's join hands and develop the country. What better example is there than looking at the local councils, Banjul with Rohilo, KM with Talib. You have Landing in Masakonko, and recently now Yankoba in West Coast region. Those people are doing everything they can, and all their councils are full of people from all different political backgrounds. They have NPP, they have APRC, they have APRC No to Alliance, UDP. They are all in council. And when they decide to come together and have a council meeting on a specific agenda, they usually go along with it, all of them. That's how you bring people together to work and develop the country. What is stopping the central government from seeing that success at the local government level and collaborating with them to deliver in other areas? For example, go to Basay and say, hey, they did this in Banjul or Kanifing, it worked. You guys should implement it as well, and the government will back you. But what is he doing? Setting up fake commissions, witch hunting, and trying to dig up all cases, all to frustrate people. And then he will sit on TV and say, let's come together, stop politics, and develop this country. How else are people? The, the sole job of the opposition and activists is to tell the government where they went wrong so that they can rectify themselves. If they are doing good, nobody will talk about it, until the time comes when we say, oh, we're grateful we have a university because now we have a doctor who is trained in the Gambia. That will be a proud moment. But you don't go sit down on the radio every day, oh, there's a university here, so we should thank the president. Next day, oh, there's a university, we should thank the president. The good that you do, nobody says it goes unnoticed, but it's usually not a source of everyday praise. But whenever you do any misstep, people are going to talk about it, and he cannot take that for some reason. So the young people need to watch out for these things, be issue centered, and focus on the things that really matter, that are going to affect their lives. And this, person X, person Y, this, that, or the other issue is not going to help them in any way, shape, or form. And when it comes to election time, it seems we forget all about that and we just throw ourselves back into the same mess again, just to have a repeat of whatever is going on now. Because, when you give somebody a mandate, basically you're telling them whatever you were doing was okay, keep doing it.
Yeah.
And that's why we find ourselves in these situations continuously, and we can change it. It's in our hands. So we should do everything we can to change it.
It is in our hand. Greetings to our viewers wherever you are watching. You can share the program. And Idris Barrow, this is Mr. Natamas. Natamas is from Nyomi, and he's an author and a social commentator also politically on Gambian issues. And the book is Usurped Still in a Country. He wrote that book, and the book is circulating. I think young people will crave for that book and read and understand their history, because this is very, very important. Natamas, I think what you said is important, because young people should know the power lies in them. They are very, very, very powerful. Majority of the country's population are young people, youths. So for that being the case, and youths and young people, and they have the power, running away from the situation. Sometimes when you are in Europe, it's difficult to say these things, because people will say, why are you there, and all those things. But we know what we are going through. We know how happy and how easy it will be if we have a better Gambia, where we can all be happy, where burdens of sending money continuously, or in fact, those who are established with their education will go back and contribute to their country within within the comfort of their families and their country. This is
Yeah.
home, as we always said. So young people definitely sometimes need to reflect and see, these issues on us are man-made. It's not made by God. Somebody somewhere has to need to take responsibility for the difficulties of that country, that warrant you to die in the sea, that cause you or force you to leave your home, leave your mothers, and all those things, which we empathize you. But you have to realize how powerful you are to effect any change that affects you, especially in your own country. Mr. Mas, Gambia is falling apart. We all know that. Nobody can justify that Gambia is progressing. Things are falling apart, as we mentioned. The corruption is endemic, is out of control. We have an executive that don't discuss about any policy anywhere they go. Any representations of the government anywhere don't talk about any policies to get out of the situations that we are. Education is falling apart. There's nothing there. Health, youth unemployment. People are dying needlessly with things that is. I have a family member who is being dressed now because he has a wound. They use vinegar to clean the wound. That's why he will go to hospital, and the nurses will use vinegar to clean the wound. There's my family. So this is not making things up. Vinegar. When you have spirits and all those things, they are not there, but the hospital will say they can use on it. So in fact, she goes with her own vinegar so that they can clean the wound and dress her. So that's the situation in the country. We all know that. But we the habitual reticence of Gambians to come out, especially the intellectuals, those who are working, those who have access to government, those who can make influence, we all quiet, sorry to say, there's a lot of people that are doing things, but I guess, what is happening in the country is affecting nearly 90% of the population, or all of us, because even if you are well off, you have all these family members and extended family members, like how it is in the Gambia, depending on you. You run away from your home because you don't want people to come and find you there. That's how things goes. Even us who are here, the little that we have, the amount of money that you send, and you get, sometimes you rebel, you say, I'm not going to send anything. Can you do it? No, you cannot do it. Things are coming on a daily basis. Help, this is going on, this is going on. And still, people are keeping quiet. Why do you think Gambians has to take this burden, that are artificially created by the representative, the people that they put there? to take it and take it and take it, just take it and keep quiet and blame anything else but their government, especially the intellectual. I had Mr. Yafa, who was my former teacher at brunch with Lamin Cham, at Muslim High School. He was a French teacher then, and he was saying, the policy of civil servants don't get into politics or they are going to be sacked and all those things was a wrong policy. But how many percent of our population are employed by the government? So why
Exactly.
are we not talking? Why are we not shouting from the rooftop about the difficulty, the dying of our people needlessly? Any of us here has somebody who is affected by the failures of our hospitals. Our people will just die. We go and bury them. We said is God, and the next day nothing happens.
Yeah.
And then we just taking these difficulties, and we know somebody somewhere is stealing our money, is siphoning our medicines from the Gambia and selling them, to foreign countries and all those things. I was listening to Mimbe Caring these days, and these, at least everybody knows that the crime out of control, people are dying. Why is Gambians are like this? Is it hypocrisy? Is it, welcome to Bankudogo? Is it because everybody said, "Nkanyinke Bankole la kuwa kama," but nobody seems to care about that country? Few
Mm.
people are doing it, but I'm talking in terms of majority, and the suffering that is going on in that country created by the leaders that we selected. Go ahead, Mr. Mas.
Yeah, I think the whole point why it persists is because the Gambians have an alternative to what they can do themselves. So, for example, everybody is relying on people in the diaspora. That is why every young person wants to go. You don't have a job, you kids, you send them to school, they graduate, they cannot find a job, and now you're too old to work, you don't know where to find money. You pick up the phone, call a relative in England, in somewhere in Europe, in the United States. They send you money. You're able to buy your bag of rice, have a little left over. You okay the pansort. People, because they have that alternative now, they don't need to worry too much about what they can get for themselves. You go farm, the whole year you're sitting down. Basically, maybe for the women they do gardening. Um, the men, they usually don't have much to do except few people who will go here and there and do what we call mbayo. But then the rainy season comes, you plant your crops, you do everything that you need to do right. At the end of it, the government cannot buy it at a price that will be able to help you and your family. What do? You turn to people in the diaspora, and we cannot say no to our own people. That's just in our nature. It doesn't matter how frustrating it gets. That's in our nature to help our people, because you know them personally. Like, if this person picks up the phone and calls me, it's because he's desperate. But individually, as a person, what can he do? Nothing. He's going to be crying in the village. Nobody's going to listen to him. He cannot go on the radios and say what he is feeling. So it's just a big whole mess. Just today, I was watching, scrolling on Facebook, and I saw this young girl that people were sharing her video. She's saying, all these young people going abroad, traveling in the back way. What do you expect us to do? Who's going to marry us? You know, People were sharing it as a funny video, but I saw it as sad one. Like,
Yes.
there's a
Yeah.
true concern. If all the young people are going abroad and there's no way they're coming back anytime soon, if they make it across the Sahara, Alhamdulillah. If they make it across the Mediterranean, Alhamdulillah. But when they get into Europe, how long are they going to be in those camps before they're able to find a decent job where they can send money back home, or find the paperwork that they need to be able to travel back and forth? So essentially, what we are looking at, let's say 100 young people travel outside of the country. Um, we'll say 90% of them will make it across. But out of that 90%, maybe only 10 or 15% will be able to be in a position to travel back to the Gambia. The rest of them, they are completely gone until they decide, okay, I cannot stay here anymore. I don't have enough money. I'm going to pack my stuff and go back home. And they're usually in their 50s and 60s, because they don't want to come back home with that same. So essentially, 80% of our young people are traveling outside, never to come back to the Gambia at any productive age anytime soon, until they're able to sort themselves out. Because people will tell you, oh, if you're here, before you go back home, make sure you get your papers right. And what are you going to do to get those papers right? Europe is getting harder and harder. So I looked at that. I'm like, this is the tragedy of our time. You know, um, it just cascades all throughout the country. Young people, young girls, they see people come back from, Europe or America, semester, and then they throw themselves at them, hoping that, okay, maybe I can get lucky with this guy. They're just desperate.
Mhm.
You know, all these things come to mind when you look at videos like that. It is so sad. Why? Because, like you said, these things happen because Gambians have an alternative. They rely on people who are coming to these Western countries, but that has a very bad social impact back home. On the other hand, people who are in positions of authority need to act. Civil servants don't engage in politics. That's all bull crap. What they need to do is, we have associations like the Nurses Association. For example, your job is to save lives, and you know you are working in an environment which is a death trap. People come there to die. Your consciences tell you, I need to have things improved here. New York just did it recently. You know, they went out on the streets to march because of the hours that they are supposed to work. You know, with COVID and the risks that they have to be associated with, they knew that they were not getting paid enough. They protested. Why can the Nurses Association, or what do they call them? The doctors,
We-
what do they call them?
Teachers union and all those
Teachers,
things. Yeah.
exactly.
Mm.
They
Yeah.
don't all need to go out, because when you do that, you're also impacting the life of people in your care. Not all the nurses can go out and leave people in ICU, but they have an association with leadership. Those leadership can call the media and say, come here. Because whenever people say Leptano Roborti, you have like opposition or lack of. But if you see people, because this is the director of health services, this is the head of RVTH research, or whatever titles they have, sitting in front of the media telling people these are the challenges we have, that will be an embarrassment for the government, to the point that they will want to act and do something. But if for some reason they decide that, these people are giving us a bad name, we're going to fire them. If they fire them, let the next batch follow them and say, if you fire them, we're going to quit as well. And that's going to give you, once they're, people need to take those risks. You don't need to just sit down there and take it. The teachers, the same thing. Mostly they will say, okay, teacher's salary and stuff, which is also genuine. But you look at those children and you know that whatever I'm delivering to these kids, when they get out of here, it's not going to benefit them in any way. So essentially, I'm wasting their childhood, their productive years as learners, and then they're going to go out into society with nothing to give to society. You protest that through the Gambia Teachers Union. Call a press conference and say, this is what is happening, and we're not going to put up with it. If the government doesn't take step A, B, or C, you're the one in that profession. You know what you need, and you know what it's going to take to get that. If the government doesn't do this, that, or the other thing by this time, we're going to call for a mass protest. And then come out. The people will see that these people are determined to help us, and the government, hopefully, will be forced to do something. But civil society organizations, everything is left to politicians. you know and whenever politicians talk, the government has a very simple excuse: these are opposition figures, and all they want is, like, they're challenging God. That's what Yajame said. If you don't support me, you're just challenging the will of God. And it's easy to bamboozle our people with stuff like that, because we are a religious community largely, and to a certain extent, a lot of us don't understand what we believe in and how we practice it. So they bamboozle you with that, or these are opposition. So, but we cannot keep quiet because we know it's wrong. We'll come
Yeah.
out and talk. If you want to hear it, you hear it. If you want to target to being an opposition, go ahead and do that. But the fact of the matter is, people are dying. Like, when people call you and say, oh, my wife had a baby this day, you say, oh, alhamdulillah.
Mm.
That's one person that made it through the system and did not die.
Yeah.
you know and we keep praising the nurses and doctors, say they are very good, they just need the equipment that they don't have. Why can the government do that? But what did we see? Recently, they accused somebody of murdering police officers. Immediately, I'll give $1 million. How much can that buy?
Yeah.
Can that even buy, like, what is it called, two X-ray machines or something, and put it in clinics up country or somewhere, or just something? Anything will help. But all that is not taking place. You know, if the government doesn't have the facilities, why can they organize training workshops, train some of these Western trained midwives, disperse them in villages and towns, and give them allowances to go help local people, to be able to deliver babies adequately, if in case they have an emergency, because they will not be able to travel when they have an emergency, like, oh, person went into labor in the middle of the night, I don't know, in Sare Alpha. Where are you going to get an ambulance to take them to a hospital? So all these options are there, but we need the people in the health sector also to step up. They have unions, they have associations. Come together, the leadership in those associations, take the risk on behalf of the Gambian people. The things in this facility or in the health sector are not tenable, and we refuse to work under such conditions, because at the end of the day, the trauma is yours.
Yeah.
Here's somebody laying down on my table, I can save them, but you end up not being able to save them. Why? Because you don't have the equipment. That person dies. You are going to sit down and feel some type of guilt. it doesn't matter what you put on the outside. On the inside, that's just human nature. You're going to feel some type of guilt, like, I'm not able to save a person and it was my job to save them. So speak up, let the people know what is going on. It you know with your authority, your voice counts a lot more than people on the outside who are constantly tagged as being opposition or viewed as opposition. And whenever they say anything, the government just processes it to the side, and then we clap for the president because what? I don't like the opposition. So that's the tragedy of our situation. We have an alternative. Like, if you are frustrated, you call somebody and they're going to help you. In other countries, they don't have that, which is why they go through unrest and civil strife and wars, because they lack food. When people don't have any food to eat, that's the end of the line for them. But in the
Yeah.
Gambia, they know they always have food. If your relatives abroad don't send it to you, you can walk into somebody's compound and you will eat. So we
Yeah.
still have that, which is a blessing for us, but also a cause in a certain way.
It is a cause in a certain way. I agree, and let our those who are there, the unions and representing our institutions, let them not take this as a personal attack, because anytime you invite their PROs, they will think this is people against them. And when there is a clear systemic failure that they themselves are suffering under, because if you are an health personnel and you don't have the instruments, you don't have the gloves and all that, you will get sick. You can easily get any kind of disease, and you are not going to be covered by the hospital that cannot even save somebody with a headache. So for that being the case, I saw I don't know whether the PRO of health, whatever, the Kerfatu, and the whole portrayal is, people are blaming, oh, sometimes we'll be there, somebody will come and tell him Fuchachala and all those things. This is not about the people and you blaming you. Yes, at some point, because you need to empathize and be patient, and you need to know how to communicate. Those are skills. But the system that is there is not preparing you enough for those challenges. The system is not equipping you enough. The staffs are not trained enough. They are lacking. And then people are overworking, because he said, you will work for 2-3 days, and the next day when you are very burnt out, somebody will come and ask you about food chachala. Then you get, you fire up, or you cannot get it. You cannot take it anymore. So nobody should work for 2-3 days continuously in anywhere, because if that is happening in the Gambia, then it's a systemic failure. So I think they need to be bold enough to say, definitely our working situation is not conducive. This and this and this, and this is why pressure is on us. And when the pressure is on us, as you are in the front line, people are going to blame you for it, because those are the only places, you are the only guy they can see, they can have access to. So but anytime these institutions comes to media, they will think this is them and the people. But even their own families and them they know themselves are suffering. They know the system is not working as how it should be working, not because we don't have the money that is going on, but most of the money goes into private pockets and all those things. If we can buy 52 Prados for ministers and all those things, or MPs or president, the fleet of President Barrow's car is unimaginable. But we don't have, now we are having all these ping pong at the Francis Edward Small Hospital, where there's no ambulance, or two. Some are saying it's only one. So we seen those happening. So that 1 million, as you said, can go and find and get a second-hand bus, or ambulance, that can help everybody, including themselves. So this is a tragedy. I only hope our people will know that they are empowered enough, and then our intellectuals and people, let them stop. This is not about UDP, Doi, and Barrow. This is about the country. All of us, our people are dying, and all those things. So, and Mr. Mars, I know you are a UDP member, and of recent, Barrow said UDP is the greatest threat, to national security. And I think you responded and say Barrow is the greatest threat to national security, not UDP. Why is Barrow a threat? How is Barrow a threat? Where do you think the threat is coming from Barrow? And if you are ready, also after that, you can sum up the strength of UDP, because it seems Barrow is making this him and ridiculing UDP, and everybody is forgetting about all the difficulties, all the failures. That I think that's the aim and objective of all this. Since there's no policy, is
Mm.
anything that is happening in the country is UDP. Give us a SWOT analysis. Not everything, but the strength of UDP, the opportunities that UDP is can because I think it's diverse. I think there's a lot of capable people in across board. Because I was looking at Mr. Yafas, Larry Caesars, and the young people, the Talibs, and all those things. Why do you think Barrow is the threat or national security threat, not UDP?
Because number one, the greatest threat to any nation's security is food insecurity, and we have that in the Gambia. He is the one who can remedy that. He wouldn't. But on the face of it, just looking from the outside in, the greatest threat is the division he's causing in the country. Barrow will pit citizens against each other, labeling some as evil and some as good, and nobody is going to stand and wait for people to attack you and do nothing about it. When Mr. Dabo said way back that we have the potential to destabilize this country, the hypocrites on the other side, like I call them, they ran with that and say, "Oh, UDP is threatening our peace." Basically, uh, what he even said it on Kerfaru. On that day, when UDP decided that this election is stolen and we are going to challenge it in the courts, if Dabo said that day, UDP people, let's come out and protest this vote, people will come out. It doesn't matter if they brought out tanks and jet fighters, people will come out. He has that much power in his hands to set that country on fire. So if from 1996 to now, the only time he went out, in fact, I didn't mention that, towards from 2015 to 2016, Panderi made it, Alamani Mankafaka, made it a point to keep calling Dabo a coward. Why? Because Dabo has so much power. If he calls people to come out on the street, they will come out on the streets. But what Dabo said was, I'm not going to go to State House working on any Gambian, single Gambian's drop of blood. So because he knew the power he has in his hands, he's been exercising it responsibly. So all Barrow has been doing constantly is telling people that UDP is a tribalist party. When UDP comes to power, this is what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do. That division in itself is the recipe for creating instability in that country, because as UDP, we're not going to sit down and watch people abuse us constantly. Even if the leadership says that this is not something that should be happening, telling people that, calm down, be law abiding. Every time you go to the courts, most of the time, the cases don't go your way. Every time some injustice happens, we see it buried under the carpet, like the police throwing tear gas into Mr. Dabo's home. In any other country, people are being on the streets, and we know how Gambian security forces act. Whenever they see people on the streets, they are trigger happy, and when they do that again, all hell will break loose in that country. So UDP has the power in its hands to mobilize the citizens to come out. And when that happens, we know how the security will respond. And that is where the peace in that country will end. But from 1996 to now, the party has been exercising that restraint. So if he wants to sit on a platform and lie about his claims that these are the greatest threat, he has to identify what kind of threat they pose. Speaking about the government and the wrong things that they are doing in that country, that's not a threat. That's democracy. And he said it, there's too much democracy. That means he doesn't even understand what democracy is, because democracy is people being free to say what they want to say. Too much democracy means violating the law. If you violate the law takes care of that. So there can never be too much democracy. There is that barricade between your rights, your freedoms, and somebody else's rights and freedom. That's where the law comes in. So if you feel like people are, exercising their rights too much, then that means they're infringing on the law, and then the law should be exercised on them. So that's where the problem is. I identified him as the threat because, number one, look at it. There's food insecurity in the country. Nobody feels safe in their home in the Gambia, to the point that even the security officers are getting gunned down in the streets. How much of that can Gambian citizens take before they decide that enough is enough? And because of his paranoia, like Yaya Jammeh before him, when the students came out to protest in 2000, what did he do? Send out security forces for them to shoot Gambian children and kill them. We know that's the reaction of security forces in the Gambia. Either they are not trained, or they are too partisan and they don't have the opportunity to show it until they know somebody is rising up to exercise their right. So those are he is the only one who has the key to either keep that country stable or destabilize it. And we see the corruption also taking place. How can people who are nothing, you used to sit down with them, eat from the same bowl in the same big compound yard, suddenly because of their affiliation with your government, they start building mansions. They start driving expensive cars when everybody else is in abject poverty. And you want to tell people that somebody else, it's just like you said, a distraction tactic. He knows that the greatest threat to his presidency, that's what they do. They conflate national security with their own personal security. What his security does he want? I want to be president and sit there calmly without having to worry about anybody challenging me. That's what he wants. That's the security he's talking about, security of tenure. It has nothing to do with the country's security, because if it does, people would not be dying on the streets. Police officers will not be shot and killed in the streets, and nothing still comes out of it, except for that cooked up story about some young person whose life they're planning on ruining. So he is the greatest threat. And UDP, being the party that it is, he saw that as a threat to his presidency. So he said, if I conflate my presidency or my security as president or my job security with that of the nation, people will rise up against the UDP. But the Gambian people are past that, because everything he's trying, yeah, Janneh has tried it, and people have seen through it. People understand how these things work, and it's not going to work for him anymore. You know, I did tell him in one of my posts what Yaya Jammeh what I tell what it, what Yaya Jammeh did and got away with it. He planned it and laid it down, and Gambians didn't see it coming. We saw you coming from 500 miles away. You're not going to be able to do what Yaya Jammeh did and get away with it. So he's trying to conflate the two: Barrow, Gambia. Anything that threatens Barrow threatens Gambia, and the people are seeing through that. When the elections came, that's what they did. Literally campaign on a tribal platform. Like you said, what is the strength of UDP? We presented the Gambian people with an agenda. Basically, these are the things that need to be done. And we were constantly on the radios, on TV channels, everywhere, talking to people about what a UDP government would mean, our priorities. So our policies are our number one strength. These are the policies we want to bring to the Gambian people. And one of those that I can recall off head is the autonomy of the local governments. These are the elected offices that are very close to the people. In fact, they are the people. Whatever impact they create will immediately affect the people's lives. So give them greater autonomy and help them collaborate with them. So that's one of our strengths. Agriculture, we keep citing it. UDP talks about the Maputo Declaration, where we at least 10% of our GDP needs to be invested in agriculture. We brought that strategy up and streamlined it to the point of saying, okay, we're going to do it in such a way that we will demarcate the country into different agricultural sectors. For example, CRR, URR, rice cultivation is effective when you do it in those regions. When you come to Combo and Nyomi, Upper Nyomi specifically, what you will get is vegetable gardening. You know, Combo all the way down to Bakau. They are vegetable farmers, so horticulture will do well there. So government will be subsidizing these areas. If you want to invest in rice farming, we will subsidize you if you decide to go to CRR, URR, because we know um, that place is well suited for that. If you want to do stuff like, for example, groundnut farming or coos farming or millet, you go to the Baribus and Nyomis because of the dry nature of those areas. Those plants do well there, or those crops do well there. So we'll subsidize it. And then, that 10%, because of the study conducted by the African governments, any country that invests at least 10% of their GDP in agriculture, they will be food self-sufficient. So our policy is our greatest strength. On top of that, like I tell people, fine, personalities matter in politics, but it's not enough. You have to have the policies to back it up, you know. And I argue that effectively, when you're talking about politics and ideology, there are two parties in the Gambia. That's PDIS and UDP. These are the two political parties that, in my opinion, are effectively talking about policies. Everybody else is just, tag along, falling somewhere between those two political parties. So I did tell people like Halifa Saleh, Sidia Jata, and the whole PDRS folks, these are well respected citizens, patriotic citizens. My disagreement with them is based solely on politics. So you identify the personality that you want and then see what policies that they have behind them and if they're going to work for the people. But we are stuck in this game of, personalities and ethnicities and regions. We're still in that as a country, and that is unfortunate. So if we look at the policies, we will emerge on top. without a doubt. And then you look at the caliber of people that will look forward to executing those policies. For example, in the Gambia today, loyalty and honesty, they are in very short supply, especially if you look at the government. But look at UDP. There is nothing that that party did not go through from 1996 to date. But the same people are the people you still see there. They threw everything at Dabo, including, banning his business, targeting people that hire him as a lawyer. All those years, he's been doing pro bono service for people, mostly UDP supporters that have been victimized by the government. Through it all, he remained loyal. And I know if Dabo decided he's going to quit politics and maybe join APRC like Wajuara did, he will have everything that he wanted in that country. Or if simply say, I don't want to be in politics, his business will be returned to him and he can live a normal life. But Kemeson stood next to him, Femi Peters, all of them. They threw everything at them in terms of position, in terms of money. The people like Single Nyasi, they threw the tribal card at them, but they remain loyal. That is what you need in a leader. They look behind them and see that our people are loyal to us. We're going to be loyal to them. We will not betray them. So that's one factor. Number two, when it comes to education, who would say that Dabo is not educated?
Nobody would
He
say
has
that.
the experience from the early 80s. The guy left, his conscience pushed him to leave the government job and create a private practice. He became a household name after the 1981 coup. Up to date, nobody will tell you he was involved in scandal A, B, or C. So we saw all that play out in all these years. And whenever, that's what many people don't understand as well. In those years, when APRC turned out to be the Toggist party or government that it was, UDP was playing a dual role as both a political party and an activist party. So we had that strategy. That's why a lot of people used to say, oh, these people are troublemakers, because UDP will call your name, tell the people what your crime is and what punishment should be for that crime. So they don't shy away from calling names. And that was one reason why people say, oh, they're troublemakers, because to them, we should all fear AI Jam and nobody should be calling him out on anything. So we have that strength of leadership. And like I said, you look at the qualifications. When Amadou Sane was finance minister, what did he do?
Mhm.
300 million within that short span of time was what he was able to get back out of all those baskets that were leaking and bring it back to the government as added revenue to the government. His vehicle policy that they fought him on, if that was implemented, the government would have been saving an additional $300 million monthly. Where was that going to go? So we look at all the different sectors. When Mr. Dabo was in foreign affairs, now is a good time because when people fall out, they start talking and say, oh, this, that, and the other thing. They'll keep telling you Dabo was saying no to this, that, or the other thing. But if you look at it, all of that, whatever he says no to, was in the benefit of the country, not for personal gain. And those people who were saying that, they were in for their own personal gain. So like you said, you mentioned some names, Lara Sisowol, a whole bunch of them. So if you have these people, they are loyal, they're truthful, they're honest, they're educated, and you put them in positions of authority, and not just within UDP. When the going was tough and UDP knew we couldn't have a leader, they were looking outside of the party for somebody to even say, okay, I'm going to run as an independent and we will support you. UDP will support you. So we will look outside of the party. That's how diverse we are. Our diversity is also our strength. If we know we don't have the capacity within the party to man position, the party will look outside and bring people in. For example, we all keep talking about Manjang. We knew he had the capacity. If he doesn't want to be partisan or involved in politics, great. He can do his job. And if he does it well, that's fine. We have enough people on the ground to do politics for us. So we will look outside. We will not be punishing people like Barrow is saying now, oh, I will look in departments wherever there are people sabotaging the government that are not supporting the government, we'll sack them all. That's it. You work for the government, then you have to be NPP. If you are not NPP, then we're going to fire you. Where is the productivity in that? So we have the leadership in terms of character and qualification. We have the policies and we have the track record. If you look at all the local governments in the country, how they are doing and where they're getting the praises from, everybody, whether they are UDP or not UDP. In fact, a lot of people uh, became actively involved with the activities of this local council because of what they're delivering. And they tell you, I'm not a UDP member, but I'm going to support this person. And they put their necks on the line for that person. That's what it is. We have the track record there, and people need to look at that to be able to say, okay, this country can do well if we have these people in power. And once we exercise that, what I keep telling people is if somebody is there, don't focus on their opponents, focus on them. What is it that they are doing right? And what is it that they're doing wrong? If you see the wrong that they're doing and you feel like the country cannot endure this another 5 years, kick them out. bring somebody else in. If that person keeps doing the same thing, kick that person out too, bring somebody else in. And then eventually the third or fourth person will say, okay, if I don't do right, or if people start talking about this issue, I know it's an issue, I'm going to lose the election. They're going to start acting right. When Yajama was there, he was killing people, torturing people, and corruption. We kicked him out. Barrow came. Now he's going to be a little more careful about killing people. At least we can say for now. If he wins again, he probably start, or maybe even before then. But he has started abusing people's rights and corruption. We are too much focused on the lives of citizens that Janneh was torturing and killing and raping, that we were saying, even if you bring a dog, we're going to vote for that dog. So the killing was the primary thing that all Gambians agree on needed to stop. We kicked him out. If all of us agree now corruption needs to stop, and we are seeing that happening in the Barrow administration, we kick them out. The next government will not kill people, it will not be corrupt, and then the only thing we'll be talking about is probably their policies are ineffective. So if we kick them out based on policies, the next person who will come will not kill, will not be corrupt, and will make sure they bring in the right policies. That's how we develop a country. We do a process of elimination of all the things we don't desire in a government, and then the next government will do a little better because they know the consequences if they don't deliver on what is right.
Thank you once again, viewers. We on Gunjur Online, the and the our programs is dialogue with the youth. So and today we are on current affairs, in the Gambia and Senegal. Because we cannot kind of separate each other socially, and what affects other country affects us. Well, greetings to Sister Mariam C, and thank you, Jallo Jerry. It's my first time to comment here, an interesting program watching from Italy. Thank you so much, brother. I hope our Gambian youths are fine in Italy, and our hearts and our minds are with them, because, leaving your country at that tender age, or even if you are grown up, is a massive, massive challenge in contemporary world, especially when you are forced to go through trauma upon trauma from land to sea, and in a massive, massive denigration in a foreign country. Those are challenges, but our brothers and sisters are all over the place in Spain, and few of them are okay, but majority are suffering. The videos that are coming out now are heart melting, from Senegal, Tunisia, in Nigeria, in Algeria, all over the place. Our brothers and sisters are suffering. Women, females with their sons and daughters, husbands, running away, seeing themselves in a no man land. That really, really difficult to comprehend. And Mr. Mas, you put these things so eloquently, and because watching, seeing, one thing I have to emphasize also here, sometimes, just because of when other Yaya Jammeh was there, I think, we saw the explosion of social media, especially from Panderis and all those things, to challenge Yaya Jammeh, because he is the leader. He is in control of our finance, our health, everything, because people, the little money that we have, we divorce with them and give it to the leader to manage it for the whole country, not for himself. And we saw where Barrow was, 3 or 4 years ago, and where he is, and anybody who is, close to Barrow, where they are now. So that's why we are talking about Barrow. If he is not a president now, nobody was going to. Jammeh, no matter how bad he ruled the Gambia, even though most of the things are affecting people and they will going to affect them for the rest of their life, we hardly talk about Jammeh now. So this has nothing to do with Adama Barrow as a person. He is the leader of the country, and definitely the country, how it is going, the trajectory is not right. And some of these things are, artificial, in the control of the government. It's not, God that created all these problems that Gambia is going through. We have a leadership that is failing spectacularly, and we need to talk about those things. When you have the Useinus, the Amadou Sanes, the KMSNs, these are highly experienced, seasoned politicians and educated people, Dr. Siddharth Job, you have, the Dr. Lamin Manes, the Dr. Hayafas, the Dr. Lamin Sane, and you have the Dr. Larry Caesars, and all this lineup of doctors and master's degree holders, the Noah Caesars, and many of them that we can count endlessly. and you have the budding generation of leaders, the Bensoudas who are doing fantastically well, the Yankubas, the Landings, the Rohilos, this give us a kind of a synopsis of what a potential UDP government, will be, because these people didn't come out from nowhere. They have a background and their party. Something somewhere has to kind of trigger these people to rule like this. And that give us hope. If we have the Yankubas that will come within three months and shape, our Gunjurs and Brikamas and West Coast like this. But with all this, because there's no political party currently, you can have an individual who is an excellent individual, but across board, you don't have any political party in the Gambia that have the depth and the capacity of such people with the experience of UNs and all those things. Why is the hesitation though now, Mr. Mas? What do you think? Anytime you talk about UDP, people are anyway hesitated. I know any rally comes, UDP, pull biggest crowd and all those things, but there's a lot of hesitation, even though in the face of this catastrophe, in the face of the failing, continuously failing in our government in terms of corruption, in terms of lack of policies that are coming from the central government, the executive, in terms of mismanagement, in terms of things are falling apart in the country, but still people, you can feel the aroma of hesitation whenever UDP comes. Why is this? And where did this start? Can you help us with that if you can?
Yeah, it's simple. Like I said, both Yahya Jammeh and Adama Barrow see the presidency as a personal thing, and they need to keep it. So they conflate themselves with the country. Yahya Jammeh goes to the point of saying Dekabi Makomom, and Adam Barrow said pretty much the same thing. That it his country. They go to my police, they go to my doctors, and my hospital. So they created an image when Yahya Jammeh, which is why I wrote my book, the way I wrote it. It's kind of to give the young people, because a lot of people that are active in our politics today are
That's
post
the that,
19.
that, that's the book. Please order it from Amazon and read this book. It's fantastic. Natta Mas, Nattamass. You sub the stealing a country commentary on the Gambian political evolution. So this is a fantastic book. Please get this book. Let's develop a culture of reading, and this will give us a lot of skills and a lot of empowerment. Go ahead. Sorry for that interjection.
No, that's fine. Thank you for that. So yeah, basically, a lot of people that are active in our politics today, they came or they are post 1994 youngsters. By that I mean, by 1994, a lot of people were maybe 4 years, less than 4 years, 90s, the millennials. Basically, I will call them. I'm not that old myself. I have gray beard, but um, those people don't really know, because the Gambia, for some reason, we are very bad at record keeping, or relaying our history or narrating our history or keeping track of it. So that's why I laid the book out like that. Before the coming of the Europeans, we didn't start as a people because the Europeans came to our shores. We had systems, we had values, and with the coming of the European exploration and colonization, that system was disrupted. So they left us with a system that we have to adapt to a certain extent, maybe modify it along the way to suit our needs better. And during that time, that's when we started having cliques coming here and there, and regionalism and tribalism surfacing its head. Yeah, Jammeh came and put that on steroids. um, all he saw was people who were trying to stop him from being president. um, I know some people who were the TRRC would see a hint at that. November 11 was basically that. They knew these people were about to betray our collective promise to the Gambian people to only serve a short period of time and give the country back to the civilians. So that November 11 was about that. They killed all of them. And then after that, the next threat was coming from the people who were within the council, which was Sana Sabali, who was inclined, a lot of people will tell you, to the fact that they need to return back to the barracks and return the country because they were not capable of running the country. He was eliminated as well. So Yahya Jammeh was fencing himself. Now, the only other threat would come from politicians. He banned all political parties. PPP, if he opened the political space, he knew those people, they still have people in the country that will vote for them. NCP, the same thing. A lot of people, in fact, thought that Sirif Diba will be president now that the soldiers are going to return back to barracks. PP was damaged because Jawara was no longer there. Sirif would win. He banned those. Hassan Musa Kamara. Anybody who was somebody in Gambian politics was banned completely. Why? Because he was trying to create an image for himself. And then out of nowhere, UDP popped up. Immediately, the basis of PPP, GPP, NCP, they all converge on UDP. And he saw that as a threat. So what is he going to do next? I'm going to try to damage this so that I can stay in power longer. So that narrative he sold, he constantly repeated it for the next 22 years. And it sank in the minds of some Gambian people. You know, oh, because Jawara was here 30 years, there's a reason why he keeps talking about the ethnicity of Jawara, tying it to the UDP. These are Mandinkas who don't want anybody else to rule this country except them. So he sold that narrative, and people who were non-Mandinka started buying into it, and then that spilled over. Barrow is still following the same trajectory. You know, he invites people from ethnically affiliated groups to come to State House. When he talks about it, the same thing. Oh, when UDP wins here, they will send the Fullers to Guinea, they will send the Wolofs to Senegal. That's basically saying this is a Mandinka entity. So that tribalism notion, they planted it in the minds of lots of young Gambians, and they cannot break free of it. Gambians cannot seem to see beyond that. If you belong to a certain ethnic group, then obviously you are a tribalist. Basically, that's what it is. So they cannot seem to relate between policies and lack of policies. And every politician in that country has to come from a tribe or an ethnic group. I hate saying tribe because that's the wrong classification. It's an ethnic group. So that notion is there, and people have bought into it. And unfortunately, they act on it as well. Like, we have to be against these people because if they are in power. But everybody will tell you from 1965 to date, the best period in the country was from 1965 to 1994. Anything else after that was just complete chaos. If it was not people being raped, it was people disappearing, people getting tortured, people getting killed, on top of huge amounts of corruption and drugs being infused in our country. Everybody knows that. We started crying out for Jawara's days. So if it was so bad under his leadership, why are people wishing to be back in those periods? Because we knew that was the period that the Gambia was actually on its feet. So
And Jawara was a Mandinka,
yeah,
and even is only his opposed people, because Yaya Jammeh once mentioned that Mandingas are self-hated to the extent that they challenge Jawara. So
right.
if it is about tribalism, maybe there will not be any opposition to Jawara, but all the opposition figures, or most of them, I think we have Hassan Musa Kamaras and all those things.
Yeah.
But other than that, they are all the Bolom Bojans, the Sirif Mustafa Dibazin, and all those things. They are all they all Mandinkas. What I am emphasizing, because I experienced this, somebody told me, because you are Janneh and you are UDP. So
Right.
and I get very, very disappointed in that. Even though my dad's mom is a Fula from Kosemar, the Scattred family the Scattred surname has a long history, that can come up and all those things. But no, just because he think the last name is Janneh, he didn't know my background. What I want to say is Gambia is a big pot of different tribes. My surname might be Janneh, but you don't know where I came from. Everybody here and there are connected to somebody here and there. But just to look at somebody's name and say this is what you are, I think that is something that we need to divorce ourselves from, because you will get it wrong most of the time. 99.9% you will get it wrong, because the other people have connections all over the places, where from their mom's side, from their dad side. So Gambia is so mixed to the extent that a leader will come and say, these are the tribes because this is their surname. These are the tribes, this is their surname. We will come to Landim Bojan's issue later on if we have time. So just to get, because these things annoys me and really, really annoys me. We know these leaders who yesterday, like President Barrow, will say, I'm a Mandinka, I'm on these things and all those things. Now we can see his language is lambasting a section of the society. Even though he is mimicking his word, we know where he's coming from, but we know, he is only interested in making himself rich and his family and those who are closer to him, when everybody else, whether you are from this tribe or that tribe or this other tribe, are suffering equally, in that country, and he has no solution to it. So I abhor leaders that will come and divide that country that is cannot be divided into tribes. And to the extent that somebody will say, yes, your surname is Janneh, you are UDP. That's
Yeah.
really a big insult. And I hope nobody will use that rod, to divide and rule and fall easily, to empowering leaders that are dictators, leaders that are selfish, that are destroying that country from for everyone. You fall into that tribe, even though you are suffering like anybody else. You think, my tribe is my tribe. Now they are in control. And Professor Lumumba also said that yes, he's stealing, he ruined the country, but he's our tribe man. So
Mm.
those are some of the things that we need to, sorry to interject, but these things is so important because I have a personal experience about it. I have to come and vomit it here. Go ahead, Mr. Mars.
I know that's the whole thing. That's the one thing that they use, when Jamaria. But like you said, Gambians need to expand our horizon. We don't even need to read too deep or too far back. You just look at the situation, read it for yourself, and then you'll be able to see facts for what they are and for what they are not. When you talk about the UDP, look at the leadership. Do you think those people will be there just to promote a Mandinka agenda when they are not affiliated to Mandinkas in any way? It doesn't make any sense. But that's the card that Yahya Jammeh used, and because it worked, Barrow came out and used the same card. And it's unfortunate, when you see people like Dambo by force associated with him, not telling him that this is wrong, this is not right. So what that does is when you attack people and say, "Oh, you are UDP," so "Oh, you are Mandinka," then that means you are UDP, or because you are UDP, you are Mandinka. So they conflate the two. Obviously, the Mandinkas will also be on the defensive position. So what that does is just exacerbate the problem, and then we cannot break free of it. People will start looking at those issues and say, "Oh yeah, you see, if it's not because of Mandinka, they will not be in this party, or if it is not because of this." And people don't come out to condemn that. We just kind of go along with it. Like you said, when Sirif fell out with Jawara in 1975, he created his NCP, and all those things that were happening back there, we see a replica of it, or a replication of it, when Barrow came to power. Because when the PPP was formed, I'll go back a little bit in history. When PPP was formed, it was because the politicians of the day ignored the protectorate people completely. All the parties you have, the Muslim Congress, the UPs, and Democratic Congress, they were all concentrated in Banjul and Kombo to Banko, which means Cape Point coming down to Banjul. That's it. They didn't care about the franchise being extended to the rest of the country that were a protectorate. PPP brought that. So with that franchise being extended to universal suffrage means every citizen has a voice now. They came with that whole crowd from Kombasanto all the way to Wasu, Koina, on both sides of the river. And they came with that force. So the politicians of the days, they feel threatened. What did they start saying? So say, so say, so say. That just landed in our political space. Why? Because majority of people in the provinces are Mandinka speakers, or you live in communities which are predominantly Mandinka, which is why you have a lot of these people who are Fulani, but they are from the upper parts of the Gambia. They're very fluent in Mandinka because they reside in their communities alongside Mandinkas. So if these people were tribalists, why would they welcome you in their communities? We all know what the land tenure system in that country is. So people like Asan Musa Kamara and a whole bunch of other people who are even Wolof, Fana Fanas, they were all in PPP because why? This is our region, the provinces. We have never been active in politics or involved or considered. Now we have somebody who wants to represent us, so let's join them. And then the politicians in the colony area saw that as a threat. They drew a tribal line between themselves and those people. So that became a struggle. But after Jawara won, in his wisdom and his democratic nature, he realized that the people that back me all the way here, they have been deprived of education all these years by the colonial administration. Very few people are educated. So what we need is people to come together, join hands, so we can develop our country and move it forward. In fact, he got some flack for it because the colonial administrators, the last governor was very friendly to Jawara, told him, look, I know you're in a hurry to Gambianize the Gambian civil service, but because they lack experience in public administration and governance, I would suggest that you retain some of the colonial administrators to help you transition them to Gambians, especially sensitive sectors like the economy. So Jawara was willing to do that. And then he got flack from educated Gambians. These colonialists all need to go. We need to Gambianize. We need to Gambianize. On top of that, he also realized the people that backed me up to get voted as prime minister and then president, most of them are illiterate in terms
Mhm.
of Western education because the colonial government neglected them for so long. So if I want to put them in positions just because they supported me, the country will stagnate or the results will be very poor. So let me hire people that have been educated, and all of them were in the colony area. So when he did that, people from the protectorate felt
Yeah,
betrayed by him.
yeah,
So they had that betrayal in them. They were nursing it from 1965 until he had a falling out with Sirif Diba in 1975. They realized, okay, Sirif is no longer with Jawara and he's forming his party. We're all going with him because Jawara betrayed us. That is how the dynamics change for PPP. Badibu went all along with Sirif because those are protectorate people. Combo Santo mostly, except for Combo is because Jawara was as their MP. They used to vote for him, and Brikama was basically his base as well. So Combo was a challenge for him, but NCP used to pull large numbers from there. Fonyi was for Jawara split. You know, people. That's why Sirif Diba got into trouble in 1981 because Kukoi was an NCP candidate. So those people felt affinity with NCP because they felt that the PPP, which was the Protectorate People's Party, got into power and started hiring people from the colony who were, our enemies. So
against,
now
yeah.
we don't want him anymore. So those people opposed him. Eventually, Asa Musa Kamara also fell out and formed the GPP. And then, like you have Dr. Bolondimboja, you have Serif Sise, all of them form parties. They don't see that Jawara is one of us, he's from our tribe or anything. They did that. So why would people now turn around and say, and even in the United States here, you can tell they will say these are battleground states. If anybody wins them, you are likely to win the presidency. But they have a reputation of either being Democrats or Republicans, and they hardly change. So when Badibu went NCP, they became opposition through and through. So in 1996, they were waiting for the soldiers to go back to barracks so that they can install Sirif Diba as president when they go to the polls. And then Yahya Jammeh also betrayed his promise. So now they got angry with him. Anybody else who comes, they're going to support him. So Badibu, Bakau, Kiang, Jara, they all went with UDP because they feel in that grudge. But people don't want to see it that way. They want to say, oh, these are Mandinka regions. So because Yahya Jammeh is a Jola, but when the coup was planned, people like Basiru Barrow were there. All of these people, they chose Yahya Jammeh to lead them. They didn't see his tribe.
Yeah,
They couldn't say that, oh, Sana Sabali is the mastermind, let's get him. Or Basiru Barrow, in fact, was higher in rank, I guess, basically.
and more
All
educated.
those
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
right, more educated. So they moved him forward. They didn't look at his tribe, but he got into power and started playing that tribal card. People bought into it. And because it worked, the same thing Barrow is applying. But the Gambian people should be the ones who need to look around and see, Single Nyasi. Everybody knows him in the Gambia. He's a Jola. They used to torture him for two crimes. One, he's an opposition. Two, he's a Jola supporting Mandinkas. Whenever they arrest him, that was how they used to beat him. Why are you a Jola supporting the Mandinkas? But he's stuck with the UDP and he's in the national executive. Look at the UDP's national executive. Who are you going to hear the names like Aji Yamseka, Aji Suka Inaka, Femi Peters? All these people, they complete mix, but nobody sees that. All they want to listen to is people who are feeding them nonsense. Just like now, Barrow will not tell you anything. He just wants to distract you from the facts of what is happening in the country. Instead of talking about security because police officers are shot and killed and what they're doing to reform the security sector, he's going to be talking about UDP. Instead of talking about the hospitals and how people are dying in those hospitals due to lack of medication and what he is doing to remedy that, he's going to talk about UDP. All of it is a distraction tactic. And because he wants to stay in power now, these are his enemies. And people act like this is new in politics. You are in camps with people today, tomorrow you fall out. Sirif was the first vice president, but at some point, he couldn't, get along with Jawara. He left and formed his own party. Hassan Musa Kamara was the next vice president. He also fell out with Jawara. So these are not new in politics. Sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's disagreement over policy. It can be anything. But the Gambian people, especially the young people, need to understand where we came from. And that is why, like I said, I formatted my book the way I did, and I'm going to continue from there. Hopefully, they will, understand where we came from, the context of the events that took place, and then we forget about this whole tribal nonsense. And like we're seeing today, everybody is proud. I'm a Mandinka. I'm completely proud of it. I'm not going to sell it for anything because God made me that. I didn't choose to be that. I have to be proud of it, and He made somebody else something, be proud of it. But that doesn't mean that I'm better than the next person. It just means I'm proud of who I am. I embrace it. I'm going to celebrate it. You embrace yours, you celebrate it. We have diversity. We learn something from each other. That's the whole point of it. Adam Barrow is there technically. He's a Mandinka because he said his dad is a Mandinka, his mom is a Fuller. But how many Fullers are going to bed hungry today? How many Mandinkas are going to bed hungry today? So what does he being Mandinka and president benefit any of those people?
Nothing, nothing,
You know,
nothing, nothing, nothing.
Dabo is a Mandinka. He's there whenever he wants. He can come to America. He just came back from the UK. If he was not too tired, he would have been in Switzerland. Wherever he
Yeah,
wants, he can
yeah,
go.
yeah.
He's not hungry. He's not starving. He's not poor. Wherever he goes, he gets in his car and goes, and he's a Mandinka. So Barrow is not fighting against the Mandinkas. He's just making the country poor. So if Dabo wants, he can sit down and he'll still be a king. We call him Mansa for a reason. I know that's political banter, but basically, he's living like a king.
Yeah,
Whenever he wants.
and his two wives tribes are from here.
Exactly, and
So
that's the thing. Like when
how irrelevant this is? Somebody whose wives and even the kids can speak more Wolof than Mandinka
that Mandinka,
probably.
exactly.
How
So
are they going to hate Wolofs and all those things? And you can go on and on and on and on.
it's a
And
tragedy of our
yeah,
condition as a
yeah,
people that
yeah.
we allow people to use us and
Mm.
fool us into acting a certain way when we know that that's not in fact true. You look at Mr. Dabo, you look at all his associates, his family, and everybody else, and then you know that. In fact, I tell people, look at the settlements in the Gambia. A lot of them have these Mandinka names, and we know land tenure. When you settle in an area, people claim all that land. So when people come to, I give the good example of Tanene. When people tell you the history of that, it was Mandinka settlement in there, and then when the Manjagos came, they gave them land to be able to farm, land to be able to live on. They embraced them. So when that issue happened between one guy who said this is my land and they encroach on it, they started saying, "Oh, is this Mandinkas?" Like at some point people will start this self-fulfilling prophecy that because you say so, now I'm going to act that way and let me see what you can do about it. And what that does is just makes the problem even greater, and then people will start forgetting about where it originated from. They focus on where the problem led to. Eventually when you do stuff like this, people will resist, and when they resist, they're going to embrace who they are more and more and dig their heels in, and because they will feel like we're justified in doing this. You're the one who attacked us, now we're going to fight back. And then you start saying, oh, this is the reason why people cannot support you. So it's that mix in there, that push and pull, and people need to be the ones who are aware enough to make sure they act based on policies, avoid these personalities. At the end of the day, you cannot read the Gambia of Mandinkas, you cannot read the Gambia of Fullers or Jolas. Nobody. We're all confined to that space. We're going to have to find a way to live together, and somebody who is delivering for the people, everybody benefits. If they fail, everybody suffered. It doesn't matter what your tribe is or ethnicity. So young
Thank
people
you.
need to understand that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Mars. And I think young people will read your book and understand more, and the political trajectory and the selfishness of our politicians. We have the time is running. I think by half past, I will stop it anyway. We don't want to keep you too long here, even though we have a lot to discuss. You wrote on your Facebook page. You said you never saw the abuse Jammeh perpetrated against your fellow countrymen, and were still cheering for him. And in 2016, then you will definitely see no wrong in whatever Barrow is attempting to do now. We are seeing now Alaji Bora has been arrested. And you said detention without legal cause is abduction, and then we can say Alaji Bora was abducted. Madi was abused. We saw other people, Sonko, Mr. Sonko of West Coast, one of the honorables, he was arrested, abused. Many people are being arrested, abused. They will be released, no charges, no nothing, and we are all quiet. And we see people, and you get this right, and you say people who talks from both sides of their mouths are dangerous people. They believe in nothing. They only seek their interest, and the good person is he who bought their bread. you know these things are coming, and this is where Jammeh start. People are being victimized, but it is not me, it is not my family, it's Bora. Bora is Kerifatu. Kerifatu is, Barrow said, is a UDP supporter and all those things. So this, and Madi is special because Madi, anybody who is arrested, Madi is just like Nene Freda. Anybody who is arrested in the Gambia, Madi will take it upon himself to row to write, to speak, on behalf of that individual. Now Mahdi is being victimized. His mobile has been seized. He's not been charged for anything. They're just, extracting his bail conditions and wasting his time and all those things. The country is silent. Even the social media is silent. People are speaking, but few people are speaking, about these situations. And this is empowering Barrow more, because he said that he said he's going to come and arrest people, even those who are bailed, their bail will be revoked. So he said these things, even though we know he don't have the power constitutionally, but he is doing this, he's expressing this. But a lot of people are keeping quiet, and some are even arguing that this is good. They have to put Mahdi away and many things. These things are some of the things that we are saying about Janneh, and he becomes, a snake, that it was too big at some point, and at the end of the day, he affected everybody in the country. Is these things, because some people will say Mahdi is a UDP, just because anybody who criticizes, who are critical with Adama Barrow, is a UDP. Kerefatu is a UDP. Mimbe Kering is a UDP. Mahdi, even though Mahdi speaks on behalf of everybody, if there is any demonstration, Mahdi will go, legally within, and he's a very careful man. And I empathize him. I sympathize him. He has been intimidated. The police, numberless cars without no number, been trading, rounding. He is intimidating him even before they arrest him, and this pain me a lot. Why are Gambians doing these things? Why are they allow impunity, to have root, to develop a taproot in the country, to the extent that anybody's arrest is that individual's issue, even though they know there is a hurricane that is coming across the country, and probably they will not be spared. Give us a synopsis, an analysis of why are we doing this? Is Barrow trying to erode, the democratic gains that country, to reverse them, and one way to do that is to intimidate people so that they don't come after him, even though he knows he's failed, and all those things as a leader. What do you think is the motive? Because this can be also very dangerous for him as a person to go after people. As you know, we saw him, about nearly in 2016, what Jammeh Jammeh got away with, but or might not be able to get away with. But still, he's trotting this way. Who are telling him this, and he think these things are going to work, and perpetually to arrest Gambians, especially people like Mahdi Jobati. No matter how biased you are, I don't know how you can come out and say Mahdi and tag color to Mahdi just because he criticizes anybody anytime if it is injustice in that country. Go ahead, Mr. Mars.
Those who say Mahdi is UDP, I guess they don't know what his interaction with UDP folks are. But that's a easy excuse. But as far as Barrow is concerned, there shouldn't be any surprise. The same people that advise Yajame are the same people advising Barrow. Yajame did this, it worked. You do the same thing, it will work. That's what it is. It's nothing else. He just wants to keep his power secure. And like you said, Gambians, we fail to learn from history. Yajame eliminated the soldiers that were a threat to him in November 11, and then went into his own council and eliminated the two that he think were the greatest threat, so that everybody else will get in line and realize that we cannot do anything with this guy. We just have to follow him and be his praise singers, like Yankuba Ture became his praise singer. When he was done with them, he came for the politicians. It's the same tactic that Barrow is using. Split UDP, take some of their supporters and try to bury them. He is unsuccessful at that. That is why they are grabbing at straws, trying to frame the UDP for all manner of ill in that country. At first, everybody knew what Sabali said in his audio, but because he said, we will take the country, since when was that a crime? Even in the Ajame days, we used to go around singing Lawyer Dawe Bankota, Lawyer Dawe Bankota. But because of that Bankota, they said that when there was a attempted coup, which nobody even believed is true, they decided that they're going to arrest Sabali, trying to connect him with that coup. That didn't work. The same thing that they did when this whole shooting thing took place, they went and tried immediately to connect it to the UDP. Why? Because they want to find an excuse to brand the UDP as subservient group, and that way they don't have any legal recourse in that country, and they will come after them heavy. That's the tactic we saw it coming. So that didn't work out, and because that all that noise was taking place, they decided they're going to go after Mahdi and people. Why? Because they said insults. There's no such thing in our constitution. When you say insult, Like for example, if you're older than me and then I tell you you're funny, that's an insult,
Mhm.
basically. So how are you going to regulate that? What Barrow is doing is following the advice of people that see him as somebody who is not smart enough. He's smart enough to know what he wants, which is power and money and fame. He's smart enough to know that. But beyond that, he doesn't see how the world works and what people are trying to get him to do, that he doesn't see the benefit for those people or the benefit that they're going to get. Like when people tell you to do something, there's usually a what's in it for me scenario in there. They want you secure in your power so that they can continue mooching off you. They want people who will advise you well, or people who will have some limitations in what they're going to encourage you to do. They want all those people away from you. And who was the greatest? He even said it. As soon as he became president, they started talking to APRC folks in the background. Fabakari was saying, if you want us to collaborate with you, you have to get rid of DAB, because they know they cannot work with people like that around. So what happened after that? Alkali contest and stuff. I don't even know where he is right now. The Alkali contest.
Probably maroon in Turkey, I think,
Right.
as well.
The guy was saying a bazooka fake and stuff like that. But they see that as a threat. Like you cannot trust them. They were once UDP. Maybe they still have friends in the UDP. They kick them out. Why? Because they want to surround him completely and get him to act a certain type of way. Why? Because of the benefits that they are going to get in there. So, like I said, anybody who doesn't know Madi will be the one who is saying Madi is UDP. You know, but we disagree with him on a lot of issues. But if
Mhm,
there's one consistent person, you might disagree with what he says or what his position is or what his views are, but consistently the person who is always advocating for the Gambia is Mahdi. He will take on any politician, whether it's sincere, I mean, genuine or not. You know, he is sincere in his convictions. Like if he thinks this is wrong for the country, that's why he is speaking out against it. Whether it is wrong for the country or not, he believes that it is wrong. That's why he speaks out against it. And for that person, basically, what I was trying to say is, if Yajama did all these things and you thought it was right, whenever he gets people arrested, they say, oh, it's UDP folks. He's with the UDP folks. They shouldn't have done this. Nobody cares about what the law says.
mhm,
Because if you say somebody did wrong, then let's all agree on one thing, what the law says. And that should be whether you agree with what the government is doing or not doing, it should be based on the law, not trying to find technicalities in the law to abuse people. That is all Barrow is doing. Let us silence people who are criticizing us, because Madi is not trying to advance any single politician's career in that country. All he is doing is calling you out. In fact, that's why he debated Halifa Saleh on Coffee Time,
yeah.
because what did he say? They betrayed the struggle, they betrayed the coalition, they betrayed the victims. So Halifa wanted to defend that. He went and debated him. He does the same with every politician. When Solo Sending, when they did the march for him, there was a convention. Madi was there talking in front of Dabo sitting. In fact, Dabo stood up and gave him a standing ovation, calling them out, you politicians. He did that in front of them. So who is Barrow for Madi not to come out and say what you're doing is wrong, this is wrong, that's wrong, and listing the crimes that he's committing in the country? But they want to intimidate him. Oh, if they can touch Madi, one lawyer who was on Kerfatu during that whole scenario, he said one thing that stuck with me. The Gambians don't have a rallying cause, a rallying philosophy. Like when you step over these bounds, we're all going to agree that that is wrong, and we're going to come and rally around whoever the victim is. We don't have that philosophy in our country. Like, for example, you kill somebody, everybody come out and say, this is wrong. We're going to stand up against it. We voice it out. We condemn. As soon as it happens, you will find division immediately. Well, he should have been in that place in the first place. He shouldn't be, no matter what the scenario is. The fact of the matter is somebody died that shouldn't have died, and we all stand up and fight against that. The president says something that is not true, and we found out it's not true. If we are people that say we detest lying by public officials or adults or elders in our community, we should all stand up and say this is a lie. We will not defend it. But immediately it happens, you find those divisions between people depending on whose interest. So at the end of the day in the Gambia, whoever is wrong will be somebody that you disagree with. Whoever is right will be somebody that you agree with. It doesn't matter what the issue is, whether it's true or not. I shared some screenshots from people regarding this
Mhm,
Madi issue,
mhm.
the president's deputy youth advisor. There was a time he was all for Madi, praising him, congratulating him and everything for being a defender. And today he's the same person, because he's in that position of authority, saying whatever happened to Madi, Madi deserves it, because you should basically just fold your hands and follow the government. If we all do that, how are we going to get any development? Basically, whatever we get
No,
will be
no,
charity.
no,
The president
no,
feels
no.
like, okay, I should throw this breadcrumb to the people. Let me
Yeah,
throw it.
yeah.
If you decide not to throw it away to the people, you keep it to yourself. People will just say, "Ah, ala laki ya, nga sabar, ala laki ya, nga sabar," while he's getting rich and everybody else is starving in the country. So
Yeah,
we're gonna all sit down and fold our
yes.
hands. And
Mhm.
tyrants, which is what Barrow is now, they don't want anybody speaking out against any wrong that they did. That
Mm, mm.
is the bottom line, and people need to realize that and act in the interest of the country and their fellow citizens. Because if he is successful in putting the UDP in a box, which he cannot do, he is coming after the activists. And when
Oh
he
yes,
does that, he's going
yeah.
after, before the activists, maybe the media houses, and then there'll be information broke out. So once that takes place, people will start being afraid. Oh, if he can touch such and such a person with all his following, then who am I? I'm just going to keep quiet and mind my business. The country is ruined.
Yeah, they want to sue Ben Suare. If Ben Suare is in the Gambia, probably they will arrest him. So they're going from one person to the other. We are very very grateful, brother Suntu Dafe is here, and he's saying and some are saying it's Mandinka boys that Thank you so much, Mr. Dafe. Glad to see you and Gunjur online. Probably for the first time, you wrote something there. And I play Ifam Bondi. Pature is my uncle, originally from Gunjur, and the lead singer, with a very, very melodious voice. And I play that music, Gambia Doku Wato Sita for a reason, because you talk about Banku Doku and Baro, divide and rule Banku Doku also. He think it is only him who is interested in Banku Doku when we know, Banku Doku, anybody, anywhere, even those who are talking on media, we who are doing all kind of menial jobs, sending money to our people without it, they, to pay their medical bills. People are putting a lot of money together to sponsor people's, trips to Turkey, to India. So Bankudoku involves, or involve many, many, many aspects, and is not only one person or one individual can do it. But as you said, His Excellency, the President and Commander in Chief of the Arms and Armed Force and Arm and Economic Forces, Alaji Adama Roads and Bridge Barrow, Bugud Lendem, these Lion Slayer and Hippo Hippo, Hippo consumer, said that he is the lion and he's the only him who is doing the bankudoku. We don't have time anyway. I think, the hippo, I will leave that with the wildlife. Maybe UDP will be very intimidated now. The hippo is coming and then the people are, butchering the hippo, to the disgrace of everyone, because, other people are following Gambian news and they can see that the butchered, but I think it's all of us. Intimidating UDP to stay away. But Bankudoku, in 3 or 4 minutes, we have only 4 minutes. Tell us, why Bankudoku, everybody is doing it. Even those who are running to go to Barkway, they have agenda. They want to go and help their poor families, the families that their government let down completely. So everybody is involved in it. Why is somebody individualizing or sectionalizing Bankudoku?
It's very simple. Even if you look at it, like everybody pays taxes. That's basically the barest minimum every citizen is required to do. You pay taxes. Through those taxes, government is run. It's as simple as that. Even the women who sell kucha jambo in the market, when they go there, they pay their $5 for duty. That's bankudoku. So basically, if you don't sit down and fold your hands doing nothing, you are in contributing to bankudoku. Those of us who have a platform or who decide that we're going to be active in politics and are talking, we expose the things that are wrong in the country that need fixing. Once it is fixed, it benefits the country. So that's also Bankudoku. And that obviously is now what the president considered as the greatest threat to the country, because he doesn't want people mentioning stuff that need fixing in that country. I'm not going to sit down and wait for my relative to go to the hospital only to die because they don't have antiseptic cleaning material. They use vinegar. Uh, who knows what that could lead to? That's what they're using in Gaza right now, where bombs are dropping because they don't have
Yeah.
anything. And we're a country that's stable. We cannot even afford that. So people who are talking and saying that this is wrong, that is wrong, they are doing a service to the country, because once that is fixed, it will benefit the people. If you run out of things that are wrong, then we are perfect. Nobody's going to start talking. Then just fix that. And then on the other hand, like you said, people who are trying to go out, when they go and make money, they send it that remittance. It adds to the GDP. In fact, it's one of the greatest contributors to
Mhm,
our
mhm,
GDP.
mhm.
People who are selling, tiending koma in the street corner, it's the same. They're just circulating money. Like yesterday, I sold $50. Today, I'm gonna buy, enough to be able to sell $60. And then you have more clients coming and say, "Oh, I'm gonna expand. Maybe I'll sell $100." So whatever you're doing, that money is circulating and is creating employment, at least for some people, because what your wife and they will start increasing their productivity. It's just all interconnected. So for them, if you don't clap for the president, that's not Bankudoko. We should just let him do what he wants, and that is just myopic, in my view. So everybody is contributing to Bankudoko, and let's all do our quota. Let us not be intimidated. Let's keep talking. People's rights need to be respected. When that happens, the country is more stable, and at least we can all express our opinions, and whatever they take on board, they can. If they don't want to, then people can revolt by voting them out of office.
By voting them out of office. The program or done agenda to hopefully next time we will come and Natamas. Thank you so much, the author of Use Up Still in a Country and the social and political commentator on social book, social Facebook, or social media. And also greetings to our viewers all over the place, the world over. We are so grateful for you to dignify us with your presence here, and your comments are taken into consideration, and we are humbled really to have you all here to share ideas, because this is all about ideas, so that we can challenge each other, and think about and reflect, and not just buy cheap things that politicians sell to us, and the trajectory of our country should be looked at, because it's not going right. The bus driver is there, but I think he is sleeping, and we are drilling on a daily basis. Things are getting out of control. Our peoples are dying. Our youths are leaving the country. These are triple effects, or more effects on our daughters, our sisters. Who is going to marry them? At the end of the day, prostitutions will mushroom in that country. And that comes with a lot of diseases. Countries, homes, the countryside is empty now. The youths are no more there. Places like Gunjur, when you go there, where I came from, is quiet. We don't have the force, we don't have the youth and the energy and the capacity to even do basic things. Old people, especially mothers, are there left, probably never going to see their sons and their daughters again, because of the failure, the catastrophic failure in that country. Nothing seems to be working, and this is squarely on the table of President Barrow, because the buck has to start with the leader. And if we cannot see that, we're blaming each other. We are only myopic. We are narrow-minded. We are selfish. We are people who can talk from both sides, because President Barrow is giving the wherewithal, the money, the power. All our powers were given to him, so that he can manage that country properly for the betterment of our people. But if we are using our mothers, our sisters, this is my personal experience, using vinegar as an antiseptic to go to hospital, so that they can be dressed, their wounds can be cleaned with it. That is a failure that nobody can defend. And now anybody who open their mouth to talk about those, really speaking, are labeled one way or the other. We should resist this for the country, for the sake of ourselves and our families, and the country that we all belong. Mother Gambia, the smiling coast. Is it smiling now? I'm not sure. Greetings to Gunjur Online and our CEO, and all our team. And today we're going to end it here. When we have chance, we will come again. Probably we will have people like Sister Maria Masi, or Sunto Dafe, Mr. Dafe, to come on Gunjur Online and talk about issues that affects us. Probably 1 or 2% will pick it up, and we will go forward. Education is power. Thank you so much. Greetings to you. Have a very, very good night.